What is going on, Clippers fans? Happy playoff week. It's here. It's upon us. We can all start freaking out for real now. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Adam Oz and Will Updike. Welcome to Clips and Dip. It's season 2, episode 68. If you're listening to us, we appreciate you. If you're subscribed to our YouTube, which you can do if you listen as well, we appreciate you as well. We're at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Like I said, I am Chuck Mockler. Adam, Will, how are you guys doing? I'm stressed. We're going to get into all of it soon, but I'm very excited for this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, there's just one key thing that we're going to talk about that, basically makes this from being like a scary but fun matchup to just a whatever matchup.
Straight up scary matchup would be the alternative.
Yeah. Huh. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm in that place with you. Not literally, figuratively, like worried about that one thing.
Sure.
As I have been for a couple of weeks now. So
yeah.
What's going on? You got a garbage bag on the back of your chair?
Oh, I normally take that off. It's just because I got back from the gym.
For gooning purposes?
My chair is it's my kill room, the Dexter kill room.
Sure.
No, it's I usually put it on there because I got back from the gym and I was all sweaty and.
Oh, that makes
sense.
Yeah.
You got to take care of your stuff. Did you lift right before this episode?
A little bit before, yeah.
Got to get pumped up. It's playoffs. Love that. So we mentioned it already. We got to. There was some Kawhi news today. Update, I think. Right? It's an actual update.
Should we play it? I got it right here if you guys want.
Yeah, cue it up.
Can we play it?
All right, here comes my phone. Here it comes. No.
Oh, I was like, really? Hell yeah, dude. Let's bring it back.
We're moving backwards here on Clips and Dip.
Yeah, we stopped screen sharing.
Here was Coach Lou at practice earlier today.
Is Kawhi fully practicing today?
No, not fully, but he's going to be a part of practice.
And Coach, do you notice a difference when Luka's off the floor, different pace they play with when Kai's at the helm?
Yes.
How much of practice can he do?
He's going to do a quarter of the practice.
No, I just mean like running. Is it just shooting?
Just a quarter of the practice. Yeah.
Is it more just because he hasn't played in so long?
Yeah, just bring along slowly.
Like a ramp up?
Yes, sir.
Will that ramp up result in him on the court Sunday?
We'll see.
How about James's foot?
He's good to go.
Let's get ready.
He's so tired of these questions. It's so fun. His smirk when he says a quarter of the practice is
that actually
hilarious.
That actually gives me I'm actually relieved by that.
Okay.
The smirk, because he doesn't seem totally dejected through the whole thing. Like we've seen Ty Lue when the cards are down, and I don't want to say that he doesn't have a poker face, but you can tell many times what the man is thinking. And so I think just that element of it's probably the way the quotes came out, it seemed like it was definitively a quarter practice. And I realize that's what he said, but the way he smirked means like it feels like he put an arbitrary number on it, and that's what it is. So I think realistically, optimistically, realistically, he is able to practice at what percentage level of complete, I'm not sure. But this is better than no news. And I think it makes sense if they are still managing the inflammation to not firmly commit to him playing on Sunday, especially. I mean, if there's any question in your mind, you can't really say the opposite.
I'm going to say what I've been saying for people wondering, why aren't they saying whether or not he's going to play in game 1? Why don't we have more clarity on this? Where's the transparency? It's probably because they don't know, because Kawhi doesn't even know, because he has to see how he responds now to playing in 25% of a practice. To me, that's obvious. Like, it has to be about his body and the way he responds. And you wouldn't throw him into a full practice even if he was feeling great yet, because he was just coming off of having this inflammation. So people making smart aleck jokes and stuff on Twitter and saying, 25% of a practice.
Run down your top 5 favorite smart aleck jokes about the Kawhi situation.
I don't know. Chuck was saying some stuff earlier. I don't know.
I haven't heard smart aleck in so long. I just said I don't know what I said. It's good. So it's good that he's practicing. I just don't know what 25% of a practice isn't in context.
I'm telling you, I don't think that's a definitive number.
No,
I
know, but it's
that's
like
just what Ty Lue said.
He's practicing, which is
He's
good.
doing some of practice.
Yeah.
They tried to get at what drills that could mean. He didn't give clarity on that.
Yeah, which no way.
I'm glad the question was asked, but I'm with Will. I'm a little bit more optimistic about this now because if he still wasn't practicing at this point with less than a week to go, then you'd probably start leaning more towards, okay, he's really not coming back for game one, right?
Absolutely. This is so much better than him not being at practice because people were freaking out about Tomer. People were adding Tomer a bunch. Like, where's Kawhi? And he was like, I haven't seen him yet. And they're like, you can't be serious. And he's like, why are you like, chill out? And then we got the news that Kawhi practiced a little bit. So it's like, I don't know. They're probably going to practice Thursday, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, we just have to wait. But it is better than not practicing.
It's all about how that right knee responds at this point. It has to be. Because if this is the first time he has practiced since, and it sounds like that's the case, he's been at 2 shoot-arounds, we've known that, this would lead you to think it's a little bit more strenuous being at a practice than a shoot-around. We'll see tomorrow I don't know if they're having a media day or anything like that, but I'm guessing over the next couple of days, we might get an update over how Kawhi Leonard has looked since that first practice.
And I would expect it to be semi-coy as well. So if you're listening and you're hoping for anything definitive, it's going to be more like, I don't know what to tell you at this point from the Clippers.
Well, it's getting to a point where they don't know and can't know at this point. So Dallas is probably legitimately thinking he might not play. And I don't know. At some point, you might just naturally hold things close to the vest, close to the chest. Like that may be where this ends up. And Dallas is probably going to prepare for, of course, Kawhi Leonard being there. But still, it feels like it's going to come down to finding something out Sunday, maybe.
Yeah, we'll know this. Yeah, I think you're right, definitively.
It feels like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
You think we'll find out on Sunday?
Or day before when they do the
injury. Well, the game's on Sunday.
We'll find out on Saturday.
That's the soonest we're going to find out?
I mean, probably. I think that's a fair...
It could
or Saturday, the day before.
If he's questionable on Saturday...
He's playing. I would be my guess. Because a day before being ruled out, that would be like, oh, shit. But day before questionable, I bet he plays.
I lean towards he is going to try to play.
Absolutely.
How that ends up going and what percentage health-wise he's at, and then how he responds if he plays in game one, all that we can't know about either. So,
yeah.
But
just got to hang out.
Yeah.
We got good news about James. Pattern. Exactly. We're in a holding pattern. We're floating. The James Harden news.
The James news is going under the radar. I'm glad you bring that up because it was a little unclear. It was a little unclear the extent of how much that foot was bothering him. We know he's taken some accumulated knocks throughout the season. I guess I don't know that there was necessarily doubt in my mind that he would play in game one, but to know that he's ready to go and feeling good on that. I mean, that's something good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. That's kind of a nice segue. We kind of wanted to talk about the starters on defense a little bit. How are we in Harden, given the foot? He's probably going to be guarding Kyrie to start off with. They're going to find switches. How can the Clips help Harden in the point of attack defense? We've talked about how good he is at the low post, how he can be effective there, but point of attack is something that's been kind of the Clippers' thorn in the side so far this year. Adam, how are you feeling about Harden on Kyrie?
Do you think he's going to be guarding Kyrie?
I don't know. Who's going to be on Kyrie?
I think probably Terance Mann and Paul George will be on Luka Doncic. I think that's the most likely thing to happen. I don't know if you want to put James Harden on Kyrie. That could be a little bit problematic. A guy who's not very good on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to likely hide him against Derek Jones.
Charles is talking about when they get the
switch. But he's going to end up on him.
Okay. I misinterpreted that.
He wasn't necessarily meaning that that's his primary assignment.
Yeah,
it's not the whiteboard that says your man and it's James Harden equal Kyrie.
Oh, and someone on YouTube already asked us about pre-switching in the comments. We're not dignifying it with a response. pre-switching just gets switched. Is what happened.
I mean, it's a given he's going to have to guard other guys than his primary guy. But when you say, I think he's going to be guarding Kyrie, I thought that's what you meant. My bad.
It's okay.
I do think it could be Terance Mann on him and then Paul George on Luka Doncic to start things off. And they'll probably try to
You don't think it'll
hide
be swapped?
James Harden on. It could be. I mean, those two will switch every time they throw that screen because either guy can guard the other. But I think Harden will probably be on Derek Jones Jr. They'll probably try to hide him there, or PJ Washington.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm so excited for Terance on Luka seconds when we get it because these two guys do not like each other. And it's very fun basketball when they go at it. Yeah, we mentioned the screening. Unsurprisingly, the Mavs are very effective at the pick and roll. Luka Doncic is 5th in pick and roll ball handler possessions per game, just in terms of the amount. And Hardwood Paroxysm pointed out something interesting about the Clippers defense. The Clippers were 7th best in defending the pick and roll, including passes this season, which is hats off to that. Top 10. We'll take it. But they were tied for 17th in defending pick and roll ball handler scoring opportunities, which means basically, like he was saying, they tend to get worked by ball handlers. And that is the focus of, obviously, when Luka does that. Kyrie doesn't run as many pick and rolls. He runs like half as many per game. But like this, we're going to talk about Zoo too. Like this and Zoo right here, like this is such a huge part that the starters need to have locked in to open this, specifically game 1.
Yeah, I wonder, and I've heard people bring this up, maybe they try to hide Zubac at times on Derek Jones Jr. or PJ Tucker. So instead of Luka calling up Daniel Gafford to try to get that switch onto Ivica Zubac, where you would expect him to be guarding that guy, he won't have that. I could see that happening. I could see that being a wrinkle. That could be smart on Coach Lou's part.
I wonder how he's going to play it to open, if there's going to be any kind of feel-out process, right, Will? Because we haven't played them post all their trades. Obviously, it's not too different of an offensive strategy from their standpoint, but like it's not the same team. It's hard to look at stats from earlier in those 3 games in the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like we talked about, like, what do you consider to be the more real indication of who a team is? Like the Clippers streak before the All-Star break or the Mavs streak after? I don't have the numbers right in front of me on, like, strength of competition. The Mavs did blow through some easy competition. I mean, the Clippers, guilty of that too in that stretch. But which is the more real indicator of what team both of these really are. And I'm curious how big is the downgrade defensively with, less wings that we can rely on in this matchup than we have in the previous 2, to having James Harden out there. But on the other end of the floor, how much better is having that like actual play setter against, I mean, like, look, we talked about it. I mean, the best thing about the Mavs is Luka and Kyrie. One of the worst things about the Mavs is Luka and Kyrie on the other end of the floor. And I know that they were better. I know that they improved. They were they ended up being top 10 defensively. So I believe they were 7th or 8th in that, like in that stretch post All-Star break. If you subtract those last 2 losses where they rested both of them. Right. But is that real? Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like there's just very real limitations of your 2 best players. And while, none of the Clippers necessarily have like the scoring highs or offensive game that Luka does, they're better on the other end of the floor. Like they're a little bit more well-rounded. It's like I said, this is a hard matchup. I still like this one for the Clippers if healthy. It's the shitty caveat that we always have to say, that everyone always says, because it's the caveat for all teams is if healthy.
All teams need help.
No team missing their best player is doing shit. So yeah, I don't know.
And PG and Kawhi's
What was your question?
Yeah, sir, is this your handwriting? And PG and Kawhi's offensive usage goes up in the playoffs, right? They're not regular season 27 to 30 point scorers. They're literally playoff 27 to 30 point scorers.
Like when Luka averaged 35 against the Clippers in 2021, Kawhi was at about 33 per game. He was right there with them, even though part of their game plan was to let Luka go off and get his numbers. I don't think it was part of the Mavs game plan to let Kawhi Leonard go off in any way, especially in what happened in Game 6 where he beat them in one of the most magnificent playoff performances I've ever seen. I wonder if they can both be real, right? The 26-5 run by the Clippers and what's happened over the last couple of months now with the Dallas Mavericks. And in that scenario where they both are and hopefully everybody's healthy, I still like the Clippers. I do.
Yeah.
I think their defensive potential is still much higher than the Dallas Mavericks' defensive potential in a 7-game series.
Yeah, especially I like that we're talking about the Kyrie and Luka thing because that's two guys right there. Every single time the Clippers play a team with someone like Luka or Kyrie where it's offense, 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 we're all yelling at the TV sometimes to put those guys in action more on the defensive side of the ball. Like we see it on Clippers Twitter. It's like put Luka in action. Like I think Ty.
We've talked about this though, and that is the one thing, right? Like, that is your sole job defensively. How do you keep those guys? Like, how do you keep those guys from getting switched on? Like, how do you keep them as far away from the action, unless it's like a post thing where Luka is going to do better? That's your one single job.
I'm excited to watch Ty Lue spam plays that work. Because he does that. If something works, Ty Lue's just going to do it again and again and again until you show that you can stop it. So I'm hoping we see in Game 1 that they can find. I mean, obviously, this isn't a crazy idea. But they can find something just to make Luka and Kyrie second guess how much they're really going to have to do on defense individually.
Yeah, I do feel confident just in the fact that Coach Lue in a playoff series is a monster. Even last year, I know they ended up losing in 5 to the Phoenix Suns. Probably should have won Game 3 if not for some ridiculousness at the end. But I don't know if they could have played much better considering what they had. I don't know if they could have competed much harder. I don't think you talk with players all the time about not leaving any talent out there on the table when their career is done. I feel like he maximized their potential in that series against the Phoenix Suns. I feel like the same thing happened in 2021 without Kawhi Leonard against the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, Paul George makes some free throws, the valley oop stuff. It still could have gone to a 7th game, but I don't know if they were going to be able to win that series without Kawhi. I feel good about that coaching advantage with Coach Lue. Will talked about it before, but Jason Kidd, he's definitely unproven, especially at this stage as a head coach in his career. I don't know if you can feel as confident from the Dallas Mavericks point of view. In fact, most Dallas Mavericks fans do not like Jason Kidd, actually.
Right, yeah.
Many of them don't. They sided with Christian Wood, a lot of them. So there's that in the Clippers' favor. But also, I do want to point out, sometimes it feels like, oh, you have this matchup advantage. Spam this or get this guy in the action each and every time. It can be more difficult than that, and especially if you don't get to it right away in the shot clock. Because if you get to it late, you're not having the advantage you should have against them with all that time out there to go to work on the mismatch. You can't let them off the hook, and that's been an issue for the Clippers all season long, where they take too long to get into their offense. I don't expect that to happen in a playoff series. I expect that to be one of the switches that is flipped. It certainly has to be.
Multiple switches.
When you're hunting guys, you have to get to it quickly. You cannot wait till the end of the shot clock, because then it's just not going to be as lopsided of an advantage when they know, oh, there's only this much time on the clock. Even though I'm undersized, he can't get to the basket at this point anyway, so I can just play the jumper.
Ty Lue, I think, talked about that today as well. I think he mentioned they asked about the identity thing, and he was like, part of our identity is getting into our sets quicker and playing deliberately, and stuff like that. You're totally right. And I'm really hoping we can see as Brian Seaman calls it, the straw that stirs the drink version of James Harden to open this series, because he's been phenomenal when he at the highs this year. He's been perfect for what the Clippers need. And I think Dime pointed this out on Twitter, In first round series, he's never not made it out of the first round. James Harden. He has a good first round. Usually, like historically, he's a good first round series guy.
Didn't he have one of his best games when Joel was out last season?
I think so.
And he had to step up.
He had 240 spots against Boston.
240
yeah.
Now he had a bad game 7 and a bad game 6.
But they made it out.
But if the Clippers get 240 spots from James Harden, I feel like they're going to win that series.
Yeah, because defensively, the Mavs, they have been good to end the season, but
they have more wings. They have switchability. Like,
their starting 5 is like it fits well together.
It does, but they do have 2 glaring weaknesses in theory, at least. I know I keep hearing Luka and Kyrie have been playing better defense and giving better effort there, but they're still not great at it. Luka's a big body. Kyrie Irving is quick, but he's small. So
it's just physical limitations. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Like you mentioned who James Harden is guarding. To me, if Kyrie, okay, let's assume Kawhi Leonard, just for a second, sake of argument, is able to go in game 1. One of the reasons you bring in James Harden is exactly for a playoff series where you can say, okay, you got 2 guys in PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr. to guard Kawhi and PG. Who's your third guy now that has to guard James Harden? It has to be either Luka or Kyrie Irving as their primary defender, and that should be the big advantage the Clippers always have, or many times have, because most teams don't have 3 really good defenders in the starting lineup. You can say the Clippers have that potential at times and have had that in the past. That was one of the big reasons of getting Kawhi and Paul George, talking about them as 2-way superstars and 2 of the best wing defenders of their era. So who the hell is guarding James Harden if they have Kawhi Leonard out there and their big 3 available?
Well, and I think a huge thing this year, and this is one of the things that, like, outside of like Clippers coverage, I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, but the emergence of Terance Mann as an actual legitimate starter is a big deal. Like a guy who can still get up and down the floor better than even a Nick Batum or a Marcus Morris or some of the guys that we've had in the past, but can be a primary defender on another team's best player. And it's not a full body clench, like you trust him in those scenarios. And I'm not saying that he's necessarily the difference maker in him, the player, but the load that takes off of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, I just don't feel like that's being talked about enough, because he, you can, if it isn't going well, you can switch one of those guys on him later, and both of those 2 being able to conserve their energy, and James Harden having maybe some of the lightest lifting he's had to do for, like, what other playoff team has he had to do lighter lifting? I guess OKC when he was a 6 man. But what other playoff team that he's ever been on has he had to do lighter lifting than what he has to do on this team, assuming the Clippers are healthy?
Yeah. And while I say that, PG and Terance Mann are your 2 primary defenders against Luka, against Kyrie Irving, late in the game, it's going to be Kawhi Leonard on one of those guys and Paul 100%. George on one of those guys.
Totally.
And then you can lean into offense more. You don't necessarily have to have Terance Mann on the court. You could have the Power Rangers.
Oh, which we're going to talk about next segment. Very excited for that.
So, I mean, a healthy Clippers team, I know that's asking a lot right now with everything going on with the right knee of Kawhi Leonard, but I would feel very encouraged about just because of who is guarding James Harden for the Dallas Mavericks then. And then he needs to get to work. He needs to be the aggressive version of himself that we have seen a little bit more of as of late.
Yes, get to the paint, get both feet in the paint, go from there. Will, you mentioned Luka, or you mentioned Terance guarding Luka. A lot of people I've seen on Mavs Twitter saying that, and Clippers Twitter, have been saying that the Mavs are probably going to put Luka on Terance as to kind of hide him and all this stuff. And I think it was LA Clippers Film who brought up that, guarding Luka is very big too. Making Luka work by cutting and crashing the offensive boards, That is huge for Terance, man. He needs to be.
He's
more chaos.
He's more mobile offensively than either Marcus Morris or Nick Batum in the other wings that we had success with against the Mavericks.
I also think that if things maybe go poorly to start this series, that the first change we see, if we need someone to crash the boards and make Luka run around on defense, is that Ty Lue puts Russ in for Terance. If things are going poorly,
I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. I'm with you.
I'm not pro it. But
I could be
those
talked
are
into
things,
it.
right? That Russ, like, he runs around.
I'm not seeing it, guys.
I believe. I'm not saying I'm not pro it again, but I just don't
think having essentially a 4-on-5 every time the Clippers are playing offense. Right. Dude, I love Russ. I like what he does. I like what he's brought to this team. Come on, let's not bullshit around. His defense is not good enough to offset the other end of the floor. It's not that good.
I mean, I'm
high on Russ defensively. I am. Maybe I'm out to lunch a little bit. But I do, and I've been talking about this series being a good matchup for Russ because I think he can guard Luka and Kyrie Irving. And earlier today, Law Murray asked Coach Lue, is he kind of like your Batum now? Could he be that guy for you? And Coach Lue said yes. And I said like 2 months ago, he has to be. Like if he's
going to be a 40% 3-point shooter
on 2 attempts per game. Like, it's not like Batum was taking that many. Look, no one's Batum, but can he do some of those things? Can he fill in some of those gaps for them? I think he can. I do in this series. I like him in this series much more than I would have liked him against the Pelicans.
Would you say you're on the come?
Well, I'm not. But Russ's potential in this series,
but a friend of mine
could be.
So Russ as Batum in the sense that Russ would be the 5 with 4 shooters around him. I love that idea, especially in this series. We'll see what Ty Lue does with that. But we're going to see, because we're going to talk about in a sec what happens when Zeus sits, because there was also some back and forth about how the Clippers can go big or not go big in this series. I saw a really interesting point.
And can I say one last thing on the Russ thing?
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
I think the more interesting move is Russ in place of Ivica Zubac in some stretches, not to start.
Oh, for sure.
But that to me is a little bit more interesting than Terance out Russ in.
I could definitely see both. My point, just to the 4-on-5 argument, I think on offense against a team like Dallas with 2 glaring holes at point of attack to me, I just think there could be an opportunity for Russ because of some of their weaknesses defensively. I don't know if it would be that much of a stretch because normally, yes, I'm all on board with I don't want to play 4-on-5 basketball and Russ is not going to be respected from the outside. But I think
his fault, I'm not bagging.
Oh yeah, it's just not his strength. That's what it is. I'm with you. I could see it a little bit in this series. I'm not saying it like Draymond Green has been saying it the last couple of days on this podcast,
which is like, it's so crazy. It's like, can we just appreciate how good he's been in his role for the Clips? Like, I think, Adam, were you tweeting that? Or someone was tweeting that where it's like, he's been good in his role right now. Let's just be happy about that.
He's a former MVP. He's a Hall of Famer. Like,
it's great.
He's performed well in his role. He has helped the Clippers win. He has helped with a lot of things on the court. TBD. I'm not sold on the Russ X factor yet.
Fair. One thing I wanted to bring up before we do a classic podcast ad break. There is on 213 Hoops. They did their roundtable, talking Clippers first.
A lot of clips in 6. I was like, I got hyped reading that.
Yeah.
They are our employer, which we must disclose, but a lot of clips in 6.
Our employer, yeah. But Eric Olsgaard had a really nice just bit about minutes and stuff like that I wanted to share. He said, I think the postseason minutes redistribution helps LA far more than Dallas. Luka's already at 37.5 minutes per game, the same as his historical postseason minutes, and Kyrie's at 35, typically hovering around 36 in the playoffs. On the other hand, the trio of Kawhi, PG, and Harden are all at 34.3. What are the odds? And all 3 typically ramp up at or near 39 minutes. This means LA's rotation will significantly and fundamentally improve, while Dallas's might only improve on the margins. I thought that was a great point because we talk about one of the issues with Luka is as the series goes on, he's fucking tired. He has like a 30+ usage percentage, and every playoffs he's exhausted. He's tired by game 6 or 7 or something like that. Adding those minutes, I like that point of it breaks the Clippers' way in terms of how minutes get redistributed in the playoffs.
Yeah, people have been pointing out throughout the season, once Kawhi and Paul George are playing 40 minutes in the playoffs, we're less worried about the defensive issues that have been going on now. It's going to be very different. Now, I do wonder the difference for Luka Doncic when it comes to tiring out, because I believe he shot under 30% in the fourth quarter of that series in 2021, and it worked the rope-a-dope against him. It eventually got to him, but he didn't have another guy handling the ball like Kyrie Irving will be. So how much does that take some of the scoring load off of his plate and keep him fresher? Because I'm sure that's one of the big strengths they have, and one of the reasons they brought in Kyrie to not have Luka wear down as much in a series, I'm guessing.
Yeah. That is why you get, like, what did Luka say today? What's different this year against the Clippers? They have Kyrie.
But I'm going to flip it, because I've said this before, and I know it could sound crazy, but there are times where I almost feel like Luka not having the ball in his hands and being in anyone else's hands because of how good he is, I will take. I mean, almost anyone in the league, almost anyone in league history, even someone like Kyrie Irving. Like, I almost feel okay about that.
As long as his jersey's tucked in, I feel better. If his jersey's untucked, then I get scared. All right, coming up.
Need Tucker.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about PJ Tucker yet. Coming up, we're going to talk kind of what I think is probably the maybe most important thing. What happens when Zubac sits in this series? For audio listeners, there's going to be some ads. They've been loud for some people. Go ahead and turn down if that's been your case. We're talking what happens when Zoo sits, coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome back into Clips and Dip. We're dipping our toes into this Clippers Mavs preview. I believe this is part 1. I think we're coming at you again with a part 2 on Thursday. But right now, Charles wants to know a little bit about what happens for the Clippers when Ivica Zubac sits.
There was talk today at practice. Ivica Zubac said to La Murray that he doesn't expect the Clippers to be able to play small as much in this series compared to past meetings with the Mavericks in the postseason. And then
if you're a big, though, isn't that what you'd say every time, too?
Oh, yeah. I'd be like, I honestly think I might have to run out there.
I don't think the small's going to work.
Yeah. Something stinks, and it's small ball lineup. Zoo's a politician now. But then our favorite French-Canadian reporter, Justin Rousseau, asked...
You finally got it right, Rousseau.
If any Mavs fans are listening to this, we've already dropped like 10 inside jokes that you only get if you listen to this podcast.
Also, hello.
So I guess you have to go back and listen to every one, guys, from the start last year.
Justin Rousseau, a fantastic Clippers reporter. Welcome to all the new people watching as well. He asked Ty Lue at practice if he echoes Ivica Zubac's sentiment that this series is one the Clippers won't be able to play as much small, or if it'll be game by game. Lou said game by game. So
I'm surprised he didn't say I forgot.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
I don't know. What is small ball? But this had me thinking, like, what is going to be the plan again? Like, what are you guys thinking when Zeus sits? Who's coming in game 1? I don't think it's Mason Plumlee. I don't think we're running that out in game 1 to, like, see if he can be effective, right?
I think Tice is ahead of Plumlee. Because of the year he's had a better year, but I also think it's a good matchup for him.
In this matchup, for sure.
Their bigs aren't huge. They're athletic, but he has better defensive principles. Mason Plumlee is he's the bigger body, but Daniel Tice is, I think, overall in position more often in the right spot. And against this Dallas team where it's not like they're throwing a bunch of 7-foot guys at you. They don't even have Boban anymore. But I think Daniel Tice has earned it and is the smarter choice.
And he's almost like a small ball 5. He's 6'9". Like, we're not talking about a guy who's like a towering center. He's an undersized center.
Who also shot 38% in the season for the Clippers, Chuck.
He did. How many attempts
per game?
38?
I think it was closer to 200, but I could be wrong.
So I was looking at the most played lineups without Zoo or Mason Plumlee in them. this year for the Clippers. There's not a lot. It's not a lot of minutes. The most played was Russ, Kawhi, Norm, Coffee, and Tice. 98 minutes plus 6. That actually feels like a lineup we would maybe see from Ty. Second most played, Russ, Harden, Norm, Coffee, Tice. 71 minutes minus 14 on those minutes, which is a little interesting. And then everything else is below 65 minutes. So I think you're right, Adam. I think Tice is maybe checking in first for the bigs. I don't think we're just going to straight up go small with a power forward.
Well,
you think
I'm
Tuck
not going to
Wagon's out
say
there?
they won't go.
Dallas may go point for sure.
Dallas may go small at times with PJ Washington or Maxi Kleber at the 5. And I think Coach Lou would be very comfortable with that, with countering that.
They, according to Nick Angstadt, host of Locked On Mavs, PJ and Maxi small ball plus 19.5 net in their minutes together. So they have some effective small ball lineups.
Damn.
One person I've noticed who Mavs fans do not want to play at all in this series is Tim Hardaway Jr. He apparently craters their defensive rating. He ups it like his defensive rating with like his most played lineups like $117 that lineup. Like it's like not ideal, which I thought was interesting because Clippers fans think of Tim Hardaway Jr. in a very different light when it comes to Mavs playoffs performances. But yeah, so how are we feeling about this whole Tice small ball rotation? We've alluded to this as being kind of the biggest question mark for the Clips in this series specifically.
Based upon having Russ now and Amir Coffey coming off the bench, 2 guys you can use in small ball lineups. Also PJ Tucker, who will definitely, I think, get play in this game. I thought it was interesting he didn't
Kawhi will play the 5 too.
Yeah, I mean, if Kawhi's there,
yeah,
I think you're solid. I think you're good to go small ball. I don't know how much they're going to because they have Derek Lively and Gafford now, and they might feel like it's a real advantage to stay big against the Clippers with those athletes. But if they do go small, and if Kawhi Leonard's 100% ready to go, I don't hate that for the Clippers, honestly. I feel like they'd match up pretty well.
I like Kawhi at the 5. That's a good time.
Because now you're talking about if you have a lineup out there that you feel more comfortable with switching on to Luka or on to Kyrie when they're looking for mismatches and there isn't that big and Zoo or Tice that they can pick on, that's advantage Clippers to me. No,
I'm just thinking. I'm ingesting it. I am agreeing with you.
We also didn't see that much staggering until how late in the season. I mean, another thing to consider is both with the increased minutes loads, but some of these bench defensive units minus Zoo, there will be more time, obviously. I mean, I'm assuming Kawhi will, if healthy, still be playing full first, but there will be more time with 2 of the 3. With any of those lineups, which I guess James isn't helping you defensively, but it does help your net rating.
And depending what's around him defensively, right? Like, what are you putting him in a position to do defensively? If he's next to Norm, don't like that at all.
But Paul George will be there.
Yeah, that's true.
Paul George and Coffee
and what Luka was doing early on in the series in 2021 was finding the smallest guy and backing him down and getting easy looks. It wasn't just he either found the smallest guy to back down and get to the basket against, or the biggest guy to draw him out to the perimeter and Ivica Zubac. Smart, of course, Luka.
Yeah.
So if he tries that, as much as James Harden can be a liability on the perimeter staying with quick guys, first of all, Luka Doncic is not the quickest guy. Kyrie Irving will be a problem in that area. But if Lucas matches up against him and realizes, this isn't Patrick Beverly, who was a dog but could still not hang with Luka.
Quite literally too small.
In the post. He got phased out of that series very quickly. Even Reggie Jackson is smaller than James Harden, I believe. He may be, I don't know how much experience he's had against Harden over the last couple of seasons, but James Harden will hold his own in the post when Luka tries to back him down. That's not a terrible matchup for the Clippers.
imagine it's a lot of experience with James Harden over the last couple of years.
My question is, I think the real question is, will Coach Lue try to throw out a small ball lineup to force Dallas to go small? That's what I'm interested in, because I do think the Clippers could have the advantage going small. So how do you get to that, though? How do you force Dallas to play into your hand a little bit?
Yeah, that's a good call. And that's where, again, we've talked about, we like the advantage of Ty Lue versus Jason Kidd with things like that and kind of throwing wrenches in there.
Like, what's the best, let's say against Dallas's starting five, what would be the best small ball five you can put together to try to make them take Gafford off the floor? How are you constructing that?
I'm jumping off what we were just talking about with Kawhi as at center. You put Kawhi at the 5 and you move everyone down and you bring Norm in.
So
Norm, Harden,
it's
Terance,
Norman for Zoo,
PG, Kawhi. Yeah, I mean Norman for Zoo, and then Kawhi plays the 5, and you just shift everyone, because that's you're shooting you're shooting the piss out of the ball, and there's a lot of activity in the passing lanes. Norm's been low-key kind of nice as a free safety defensively this year. Not elite. I'm not saying anything like that, but he's shown
physical, physical limitations. It's not.
Yeah.
He's had a better year defensively. And last year in the playoffs, he showed that he could get back to playing some of that Raptors defense.
He tries. Yeah,
I do worry a little bit, because they do need the lineup with Norm and James Harden out there. I do worry a little bit when both of them are out there, though, too, that Dallas is constantly looking for him. But I get what you're saying. Like, if you lean into the offense there and
it's the offensive side of the ball. Yeah,
that could be the way to force it.
Well, and
what would you go with?
What do you do to maximize the minutes where Luka is off the floor? And I think go fucking small. Why not just roll out your smallest lineup and just run it up?
Just run around, yeah.
That's
defensively, Adam. How would you do it to get their starting 5? Like, are you bringing in Tuck Wagon for Zoo? Old Tucker nuts.
It wouldn't be my first choice. I might try something. With Amir, just because I don't know. I really like the way Amir's been playing. The willing shooter with 3-pointers. He seems to always come up big late in games. His switchability defensively is bigger than Terance Mann.
Good hustle plays lately too. He's been doing all the good stuff.
I might try from biggest to smallest. I guess Kawhi, PG, Amir, James, Norm. At some point.
Ooh,
yeah, I really like it
too. Wow, really? We have really good ideas. That's fucking crazy.
Call Ty.
2 back-to-back.
Somebody call Ty.
3 back-to-back. We're killing it. Yeah, I like that.
I feel like we got to look at that towards the end of the season a little bit. I'm not positive.
Shout out Amir Coffey. We just talked about how good Terance Mann is started, and which is totally true about him being an actual starter. Amir Coffey's had a fantastic season too, and is doing that thing again where the bench guys are all playing kind of plus 10%.
We've seen him close over Terance, but I can't remember the full lineup.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen also too. I know we're talking about going small, but I think we're going to see Zoo close in this series. At some point, I don't think it's going to.
I'm not ready to commit to it. I want to be.
I'm ready to get.
I'm not ready to commit to that.
I'm ready to get hurt again.
I hope that is the case.
But if Zoo's closing, I think things are going. I mean, that's ideal.
Things are If Zoo is closing, I mean, people you're rubbing your hands together and it's going all according to plan.
I also don't hate Russell Westbrook and being in one of these small ball lineups because of his rebounding. Because he does play big in the paint.
Put him at the 5. Put him at that cog role, right? That we saw be effective.
I think Russ is going to show some nasty, gritty defense at times in this series. I really do. I think he's going to be able to play up a position a lot. And that could be an issue for the Dallas Mavericks if Russ is locked in, because that's one more guy that you don't necessarily – I don't think they're going to be trying for the most part to get a switch with Russ and to get him on Luka.
He's
or
an
Kyrie.
annoying ass guy to try and play offense against.
When he's focused.
He's gonna, like one-on-one in this series. It's like Will said, it's not a full body clench with Russ out there because he's gonna be playing guys hard. Not like you said, Luka's not gonna be able to blow by Russ. I don't think. I say as 7:22 p.m. on April 16th.
I mean, like not every time.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like there's gonna maybe be some. He's gonna get his. He's Luka.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be as easy. Yeah. I love that. I keep going back to that point about the size of the point guards before, Adam. And I really like that point. They're bigger than Pat Bev now. And Reggie Jackson.
Yeah. Well, overall, their wings are smaller. They have less of them. The guys that Luka would go up against and was always looking for were their smalls out there.
Yeah.
Terance Mann also is somebody that he has backed down a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, Terance gives great effort there.
Yeah.
And he does everything he can, and he's going to be playing against Luka a ton, but Luka certainly isn't exactly afraid of him, which is why I'm kind of interested in Amir Coffey, maybe in some late game situations, because let's say Terance Mann, he's going to be starting. He gets worn down a little bit. Just
foul trouble.
It's so taxing, or gets into foul trouble against Luka.
Foul trouble. Yeah.
It's going to happen a few games. I'm sure of that. But I think Russ is somebody that I don't know if Luka should be blown by or bullying that much on the block. And I posted the video of that game. The only game they had against him at Crypto this year was the one where late Russ was relentlessly going at Luka Doncic when Dallas went small and just said, go at him. And he got a foul and an and one. Like, I like the energy I saw from Russ in the regular season against Dallas. Different team, but against Luka specifically. And that needs to be there in this game. That fearless attitude, because Luka, it's demoralizing playing against him sometimes.
Oh,
some of the shots that he hits.
Just like it is to play against Kawhi and PG when they're doing it on both ends. I'm encouraged by Russ in this series. I'm hoping also, we were just talking about foul trouble, early Zoo foul trouble. Then I maybe get full body clinch.
What do you want to see? We talked about maybe going super small, but like, what do you want to see in the 9 minutes per game when Luka isn't out there?
I would like to see
what is most essential.
I'm going to be off the floor for 9 because I will sign up for that.
Yeah, hell yeah. I think he's off the floor. I think he's off the floor for 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
But I want to see.
But you can win a game in that time.
Yeah,
you can.
Oh, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, there's no two ways around it. Like, you do need to maximize what your efforts are when he is not on the floor.
That's how they just beat Denver with Jokic. I know they didn't have Jamal Murray. Clippers didn't have Kawhi. They went like plus 12 in the non-Jokic minutes, and he only was off the floor for like 6 or 7 minutes or something.
And we ran some funky small ball with that, led by Russ and Harden, I think, together. And Amir was out there. I think that was a 3-man lineup in that game because it started sloppy. And then they got some deflections, and it was like offense to defense, and things were going well. So I think when Luka's off, that's when we need the Amir Coffey fearlessness and the efficiency to be there and the cuts to be there too.
I mean, we're assuming if Luka, whenever he's off, Kyrie is going to be on.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the best 5 to corral up Kyrie then, I guess, a little bit in those minutes?
Tice,
but
Mason,
also go
PJ, Zoo. I think Moose is good to go. Kai. Big size. Y'all stand in the line.
I would like to count up how many guys can guard Luka on this Clippers team and will be guarding him at some point.
In the sense of like guarding Luka,
like,
yeah.
You feel okay about it.
Sure.
You feel
as
like
good as you can feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be very clear, we're not saying these are like the stoppers.
2.5.
Yeah. Okay. Kawhi, Paul George, Terance, Amir.
You guys said Russ.
Amir's a bit of an
Oh, I'm committed, baby.
Yeah.
Me and Russ, just ask his stands. We're like this.
Oh no. You morph. It's the Morongo commercial. You morph into a
I think
Twitter avatar.
I think PJ will get a look against him.
You said who we feel comfortable with him, not who we think will get looks. Which is
he ain't gonna be able to bully PJ in the post.
That is very true.
I don't hate it. I don't.
Okay. Well, in terms of feeling okay about guarding Luka, I think
5.
You got the 3. I don't know if I have 5. You have the 3. Amir, I feel better about Russ than Amir. on Luka.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll give it 3 and 3 quarters. Yeah. 3 and 3 quarters.
Just to guys that can give him different looks.
Shit. Will's internet's out or
waves of defenders that can be going at Luka, changing levels, giving him different looks. That's always what Coach Lue talks about when it comes to defending superstars and great players, and specifically Luka Doncic. That is the way, to just not give him consistently the same defender to look at over and over again and eventually pick him apart or find a rhythm or get in that groove like he does, seeing Ivica Zubac, where he gets
And we haven't even talked about
Can Zoo turn that around?
I don't think it's Zoo's fault, dude. It's just a mental thing.
I think Adam's talked about this before. There's just like such a history that the confidence that you must
big wig. Zoo in a wig, Luka's not hitting shit.
Will brought up long-haired Zoo.
Wig. Come on, dude. Long-haired Zoo. Luka would. It's like
if he starts just like taking handfuls of prenatal vitamins right now, he might be able to get the hair to like here.
Or how about this? Harden shaves his beard. I think the Clippers win the first game, no question, if Harden shaves his beard. Right,
they just don't know what they're looking at.
Keeps the beard through shoot around and everything. So it's like it's all normal, and then just right when starting lineups, it's just like
or just a big handlebar mustache.
Yeah, he goes. He's my uncle. Yeah.
Would it be like a wardrobe thing or against NBA policy
to wear a wig?
To have a fake wig? Because like Andre Agassi wore fake hair for a while.
Yeah.
Well, you can have extensions. Like, what's the difference?
Very true.
Okay. I was thinking of the old. You remember they outlawed the bandana, the Ninja Turtle thing that Montrez used to wear because it flies around a little bit.
The no fun league is what I call the NBA.
Okay, back to Will's question though regarding best lineup to slow down a lineup without Luka but with Kyrie on the floor for Dallas.
I don't know. I thought I gave my answer.
You got to have Norm out there going crazy. I mean,
you got to have Norm out there. You got to have Amir out there. PG.
Will you trust Norm to defend Kyrie in some like limited spot minutes?
That's the thing.
I do not think so.
So do we want Norm out there?
Well, again, this is are you leaning?
You're going.
Right?
Can you strike that balance where you still have a lot of offense but a lot of defense? Like, can you find something even better?
Is it the Power Rangers? I mean, that would be great.
I just
nice mix of offense and defense.
I don't think you run all the starters out there when minus Zoo when
take advantage. I believe I was just told you could win games in those 5 minutes.
That's true.
You can.
I don't know. I also just wanted
you
to
can win a game in 2
minutes.
Rangers. Like you look at a plus minus every night. It's like LeBron pretty much relentlessly, or consistently throughout his career, like ends up being a plus, and that team beat him because they won the minutes LeBron James wasn't out there. It happened earlier today against the Pelicans, where they went on like they had like an 8-point lead early on in the first half, and it looked like things were starting to turn the other way against the Lakers. And then LeBron came back in, and the Lakers went on a 12-0 run. It was like that simple.
Will, what would your go-to be? Or just want to see.
I mean, I think that's a good time. That's time to get PJ minutes. Hopefully, he's willing to like take shots in those minutes. I just think for like the tempo and just how quick Norm can swing a game, he's got to be in any one of those lineups for me. Because a Norm, like when Norm gets into that like automatic mode, I mean that's like you can have a 9-0 swing in like the blink of an eye.
What's the stats too? The Clippers account put out a great Norm for 6th man of the year tweet today, kind of just listing what his numbers have been. Second in clutch points off the bench. Like what was he shooting from 3 in the 4th this year at one point for like 2 months?
It was 55%.
55%. Like
so I guess I might go. Yeah. So I guess I might go Russ, Norm, Amir, PG, Tucker.
That seems like a realistic possibility
big ass
depending on who Dallas goes with at center there.
For the Clippers, that's a big lineup. Yeah, I like it.
And then you have some versatility at the 5, you know, If you, yeah, I mean, you could even do Mason out there, like if you think like
Or
defensive,
Tice.
like yeah.
Do you think we'll see any? Because people were asking about this after it happened a couple of times over the last week, and it looked like it was just out of availability and what guys were there and weren't getting the DNP-CD. But people were asking about, hey, Mason Plumlee next to Daniel Tice. They did it a couple times, and Dan Craig said it was about availability. But do you think it could happen? Or big next to Tyson this series? Not necessarily Plum. That's not going to happen.
What advantage do you see? I guess would be my question.
Rebounding.
Boards. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Who's the other three? Yeah, I don't know.
I get.
I mean, I just shit on Russ for the 5-on-4 on the, or for the 4-on-5 on the offensive end, so I can't condone a double center lineup, or I look like an idiot.
Russ hater.
Number one.
Number one, baby.
And still the undefeated.
There was one thing that I wanted that I kind of forgot to talk about, and that was Terance Mann is the roll man. If Luka is guarding Terance Mann and then putting Terance as the roll, it happened very little during the regular season. It was like 35 possessions, quite few. But that's a thing I think we'll see in small ball stuff, is maybe more Terance as a screener or Kawhi as a screener. Because when they were running Kawhi as a screener, his points per possession was like 1.2 or something like that, which is pretty solid to great. So the screening is going to be fun. We're going to see some weird stuff from Ty Lue, especially in some of these small ball lineups that I think all of us have convinced me we're going to see more of, despite what Zoo thinks or wants.
I just think there's a good chance Coach Lue will want to get to them and make Dallas play smaller at times. But if Zoo's detonating, which I would love,
sure,
and they're featuring him and they're getting him the basketball because they really need to against smaller bigs that the Dallas Mavericks have, that's a path to victory. That's probably the most likely path to victory in this series. Just if Ivica Zubac is able to play average, let's say 32 minutes per ball game. That
Absolutely.
To me would be a great sign for the Clippers.
Because if he's played off the floor, Clippers don't really have a lot of options for easy buckets.
Correct.
That, you know, like there's not a lot of stuff that doesn't involve your already high usage players doing a lot, which, you know, I mean, it is the playoffs. That's fine. Yeah. But you got to have some options for some easier offense in the course of a series.
And again, the Mavs do have like kind of a handful of solid small ball lineups that they can run. So Zoo's going to have to be on point. He talked about today too, the pick and roll stuff, how he needs to get better at making sure the roller's not behind him, just going straight to the bucket. He talked about how the Clippers need to get to the ball faster and get through screens. So there's some interesting stuff. Ty Lue's cooking some stuff up that I'm excited for.
It does feel like a huge advantage for the Clippers to having known their opponent for almost 2 weeks. You know, Dallas has been in the 5 spot for a while. The Pelicans were falling down the standings for a while. I mean, they fell into the play-in. I feel great about that. I'm encouraged by that from the Clippers standpoint. Should we talk about the elephant in the room?
Wait, there's 2 elephants in the room?
There's another elephant. There's Operation Dumbbell Drop. And then
can we do it? Let's do it after this ad break.
Tease it, Adam, and then let Chuck go on the ad break. Come on,
I don't like the Marvel what ifs, and I don't like this one either. But what if Kawhi Leonard is not available? How do the Clippers approach this?
All right, we're going to talk about that after this very long ad break. It's not going to be long, but that was very ominous. But it's fair. Allowed ads coming up for some people, and then we're talking a big what if, and then we're talking a little Blake coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in Clips and Dip. I'm Adam Moslem. We got Chuck Mockler and Will Updike. You're listening to a season 2, episode 68 show here. If you want to check us out, we're all at YouTube or on YouTube at Clippers Podcast, at Clippers Pod on X is where you find us. Coming up, we'll talk about Blake Griffin and him officially retiring today. Some of our favorite memories. But I did have to throw this one out there because it seems like it doesn't have to be an Earth 2 possibility with Kawhi's injury history and the last 3 seasons.
Sure.
He has not been able to go, or at some point hasn't been able to go in a playoff series because of that right knee. And it's been troublesome again at the worst time. It is unfortunate. It is frustrating. Clipper Nation, we get it. Everybody's talking about it right now. And how could this be happening at this point of the season? It is brutal. But let's say he's missing for a couple of games early on. Can the Clippers do enough to tread water to bring hope of him coming back later in the series? And is there a way to get by without Kawhi Leonard early on in the series? Because this was one of the reasons when they first got James Harden was, if they have 2 of the big 3 in a series at times, they might be okay it's possible they could get out of a series. We didn't know the matchup. Now we know it's Dallas, but there was a time where we brought that up during the offseason, and then when it actually happened during early on in the season when they brought in James Harden, that it's a little bit of insurance in case one of 2-1-3 isn't available.
I mean, just off the jump, like this is a way harder series than last year's. Like even the first 2 games where we had Kawhi healthy. I just think matchup wise, if you don't have any one of the 3, but specifically Kawhi aside, I just like they would have to be perfect, and even then it would be
difficult.
I mean,
yeah,
to put it lightly, yeah.
Who's starting?
I was just gonna say, if it's Amir, which would be my guess, I cannot see Ty Lue starting PJ Tucker next to Zoo, because that's usually been the guy, right? Like in these late season stuff. But I think it's got.
You don't think it's Russ?
Yeah, because then you go Russ.
I think Russ brings the most balance off the bench. If you look at guys like Norman Powell, a lot of offense, not much defense. Amir Coffey, more defense than offense. Russ is kind of that in between where you get a little bit of both.
Yeah, I just get worried, and I know Russ is a bigger guard. It's still a big Mavs lineup, like we're moving. Yeah, I don't like this hypothetical. I would go Amir, I guess, for size issues.
I mean, and we have seen that before, so
yeah, I would go Amir, and I would hope that his off-ball cutting was good. I would hope that his defense is as good as it's ever been, and then, like Adam, you talked about it, even with everyone healthy, aggressive James Harden, because if he's going to be handling the ball, he's got to get everyone into their sets. That makes things easier. I mean, the pressure's
the good
more on James Harden. Yeah, and then you got to get the good playoff P going. They have a chance. I mean, if
not to win a series.
No, so yeah.
I'm sorry, no chance.
The question
to win
was
a series.
to tread water. Game? To tread water, like, so let's say it's the first 2 games in LA, which I think it's, God damn it, I'm so tired of these balloons.
Oh, you like this hypothetical, huh? You're a sick man.
If you're only listening, you're missing the visual effects absolutely assaulting me right now. I think even healthy, the Clippers, there's a decent chance they split these first 2 games. The series is going to go, yes, if the series is going to go 6, there's a decent chance, which I think it is, there's a decent chance they split this game, even when healthy. But I don't think it's crazy to think they could still split without Kawhi. After that, I get a lot more pessimistic.
They could split.
I think they could
split the home series without Kawhi. It's
yes. But then again, after that, if we're heading to Dallas and he's still on the report, absolutely. If we're heading to Dallas and he's still on the report, I'm like, okay, we can split in Dallas.
The other thing is, when you're talking about inflammation, the reason he didn't go on the road trip to Phoenix was because altitude could affect that. So they're going to give him a Madden bus for
they'll fly like 1,000. They'll fly 1,000 feet off the ground. They'll just be in a straight line.
I like your point though about how they could be fully healthy and it could still be a split after the first 2 games.
It's gonna be a hard series,
and it's still possible that 2 home games without Kawhi in one of them, you still get one of those first 2 games at home. That's not crazy to me at all, but
I just don't think you're doing better than that.
That'd be I would dance a jig if they go 2-0 without Kawhi. If that happens, knocking on wood.
It's the reverse of 2021 where we go up 2-0. The Clippers go up 2-0 on Dallas.
I don't know what it's like. I would love to be in that position.
Not a full reverse because they're not starting in Dallas. But I don't hate the matchup. I know it would seem impossible for them to win this series without Kawhi Leonard. I think what you'd have to have is Ivica Zubac to have a breakout series. And we're talking like 16 and 12 average. And Norman Powell to be dropping 20 off the bench. Yeah. Norman Powell to be dropping 20 plus off the bench.
Well, I mean, that could be a given.
Norm? And
Playoff
James.
Norm?
I think he's more than capable. It dropped 42 against Phoenix. I don't know what his averages came out to, but I'm pretty sure he was above 20 last year in that first round series. And James Harden and Paul George to combine for 50 points a game.
Good rest. You need good locked in rest the whole time.
That's what I'm saying. Like there's not the margins are non-existent.
There's no margin. Yeah.
Like the margins are non-existent.
Why not?
The margins are slim.
Just a little bit.
Margins are slim, healthy.
Why not just a little bit? Counterpoint, why not just a little bit?
Like, it's not a strong argument, but like some popsicle sticks exist, just.
You haven't said anything about Kai Jones if Kawhi's out. Isn't that he's playoff eligible?
Did we hear anything about him today?
No. He was there
in those interviews? I don't think
he was there. Yeah. He was there in a full sweatsuit doing his thing.
I did get an email from somebody, a big listener of Clippers Talk, who loves to lean into playing big. He wants Zubac and Plumlee out there all the time. I just can't
all the time, huh?
He at least wants to try it.
What's the advantage? Like, again, my question is,
he just
has to be tall to play basketball. These are the 2 tallest guys on the team. You put them on the court at the same time, higher average height, higher average points.
He doesn't seem to understand that. Well, that may help you in the rebounding department and the defensive department. It will careen your offensive rating.
If Mason Plumlee runs the break at any point in this series, he should be sent home.
It does feel like, though, it could be more of a wide open series than what would have happened against the Pelicans.
Pace-wise?
Every possession is so precious, against a team like the Pelicans. It does feel like there are going to be points to be had. The Clippers will be comfortable on offense for the most part.
They're comfortable.
And that's why, I'm not going to say they'd win the series without Kawhi, but I'm also not going to say it would be completely impossible. Completely.
But
I understand.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong argument because, they needed Kawhi to beat. But the thing is, that what happened in 2021 and how it got to 7 games was a little bit fluky. I've been talking about this with Lucas Han, our boss, all the time. Like, what happened in the first 3 games, and I ran the numbers the other day, what happened with the Dallas Mavericks shooting from 3 in the first 3 games is also something that you would have said is impossible, which is they shot 50% from 3 on high volume the first 3 games of that series. And the Clippers also won one of those, game 3. It was insane. And the regressions of the mean came fast and swift eventually, and the Clippers were able to wait out the storm, and they eventually won. Now, they still needed Kawhi to have 45 in that game 6 on the road, of course. But it easily could have gone only 6 games. Yeah. Easily. What happened is not that repeatable from 3 from Dallas's role players. Fingers crossed. I know. But that was an all-time anomaly in the first 2 games. That wasn't the Clippers just playing bad defense and having some bad game plan and what were they thinking and they had to change everything.
It was a tough break.
It was unbelievable.
Jesus.
as Lucas pointed out, in game 2, they had one better shooting game all season long than they had in game 2. They were 2 of their top 5 best shooting games of the season, and they happened to come in games 1 and 2. That's not because of Luka and him being a magician out there. It just happened. It's just one of those rare things that happened in a playoff series, and the Clippers had to deal with it, unfortunately. So I know Dallas is better now. I know without Kawhi Leonard, it would seem impossible. But I don't expect them to go that crazy from 3 for 3 straight games again. Not 3.
Yeah, that's fair.
1, fine. They're probably going to have an 18-plus made three-pointer game in this one.
Yeah.
Where Luka and Kyrie look unguardable, and they combine to maybe drop 75 points.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm excited to be more stressed out about this as we get closer to it, because right now I'm excited, but I think as we get closer and hear more non-news about the Kawhi stuff, I'm going to be more nervous.
My best guess would be he gives it a go in game 1. That's still my best guess at this point. What happened earlier, like Will said, if anything, it should lead you feeling a little bit more optimistic.
Yeah. Also, it was a 4-hour practice. So I mean, he did play an hour.
They practice sun up to sundown. That's the playoff schedule. Full pads. So they did 2 a day today. Full pads. Hot and ready's at lunch.
It was Hell Week.
It was
Kawhi participated in one day of Hell Week.
Yeah, they were on the tackling the sleds. Just guy who doesn't know anything. All right, we would be remiss if we did not mention Blake Griffin retiring. Made me feel old as hell. Just to see him retire. He came in the league after. Yeah.
Seriously, how old is he? 36?
I'm not sure.
Looking it up. He
one
is
of, if
35.
One of, if not the most important Clippers players of all time. Probably my favorite Clipper of all time. Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel. He did so much. Weird end to the franchise relationship, but I mean, I think the most important Clipper.
I think so too. When it came to national media, and as Brian Seaman would say, putting this team on the map. Like CP3 in that move added the credibility of they can win, but the highlights from Blake Griffin are what everybody saw, and that's what circulated, and that's what made people talk about the Clippers all the time. Because they're god-tier dunks and some of the craziest stuff we'll never see again. Like how many I remember where I was moments did Blake Griffin give you just from some of those highlight dunks? Because I remember where I was when he dunked on Kendrick Perkins, and I probably rewound it 50 times.
What a guy to just get yammed on, too. The Mozgov dunk is absolutely insane.
The Pau Gasol 2 dunks in one game on him.
The NBA Jam, the game breaker that him and Jamal did is still like, he didn't know he was going to throw it. I don't know, it's crazy. Will, what's your favorite? You hated Blake, right? I'm just kidding. You were against it from the beginning, I thought.
My favorite Blake moment was when he punched that trainer.
Yeah, that sucked.
I was so furious. That was a throw my phone moment.
Sucked. Yeah, that sucked. I do love, too, one of the things that Blake did. I think someone posted a meme of, like, Captain America, and they were like, Blake Griffin using the last of his knees to make the Pistons watchable in 2019 or whatever that was.
His last quality season, his full first year with Detroit was a special year.
Oh, yeah.
He did all the stuff that people had wanted him to be doing or whatever. It's like, he can do this stuff. Like,
that's what's kind of heartbreaking. Speaking of what ifs, Blake Griffin's an all-time what if this guy was healthy throughout his entire career type of player, up there with T-Mac and Derrick Rose and guys like that, Grant Hill. Because he had so much more game. He was so skilled. He worked on his game and evolved so much where his mid-range jumper was serious by 2015.
Yeah.
The form was so funny.
It was automatic.
Watching him work on it was so funny because for a while it would look like he was just jumping and then waiting until he was just about to go back down and then snap his receiver hard. But he got it figured out. And just funny too in terms of off-court stuff.
Oh yeah,
so great for branding and stuff like that. Wanted to help
commercials.
Yeah, his
the
stuff
slam dunk contest, which I do think was rigged a little bit.
Because course.
Like someone had to give. I forget who got screwed, but somebody had to put up. Blake didn't have a good first round and somehow made it. And it's like, well, the car was waiting for him in the second round. Like he had to get to the second round because the Kia car was going to roll out. But still, that dunk was cool.
That's just known as synergy. And sometimes you got to deal with it in a dunk contest put on by a league.
Ask a certain player for the Nuggets.
What was your favorite set that Blake did when he would drop in on a mic, Charles?
When he would drop in and do stand-up? He wasn't aggressively bad at stand-up.
No, he has incredible timing. He has incredible timing. Like that was like the peak kind of era of like Clippers in the larger media. Like just
when CP had that Cartoon Network show on Adult Swim for a very limited time, which is crazy.
I remember he made a joke on stage with Jeffrey Ross once. This was after the Clippers had traded him. And Ross had shaved his head. And he said something like, we both got screwed by the Clippers because his head was shaved and Blake got traded. And like, you had to make that move. You had to free up the salary to bring in 2 and 3. And you could see during that season, like he wasn't going to last. He wasn't going to last in his first year on that contract. His knees just weren't there. He was starting to deteriorate right before our eyes. It's a bummer too. He also has the dubious title of being one of the guys that hits a big shot and then is traded the next night. Because his last shot was, I think, a 3-pointer against the Pelicans. Late in the ball game that iced it for the Clippers, and then he was gone the next day.
He also
Tobias Harris had that.
He also is the reason the craziest shirt was ever printed. If you know what T-shirt I'm talking about, it's the T-shirt they showed Blake, the Pioneers shirt, where it's like,
oh my god,
it's like, let me see.
Well, bring up the graphic.
We don't have the technology, guys. We don't have it. We can't do this.
Oh, we have it. We have to show this shirt. This shirt is crazy. It's crazy they made this.
Adam, were you selectively forgetting?
So for those of you who haven't seen this, I'm
forgetting this moment as it happens.
Enhance.
This is a shirt that has Blake Griffin, Muhammad Ali, Obama, JFK, Martin Luther King Jr., Einstein, and Mandela on there. And this was how they were pitching him to come to just a wild pitch. Clippers marketing, always doing their thing. Joseph Fry Award. Oh no!
live reaction.
Joseph Fry Award has that shirt, which is incredible. I think that about wraps it up. We got to get out of here. These playoffs just have us wanting to talk as much Clip as possible. We're gonna have another episode on Thursday for everyone to watch, which should be a good time. And then we're gonna be doing some lives and whatnot. It's going to be a fun time. Will, where could people tell their friends to maybe listen to us if they would like?
So you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave a rating review. It really helps us out. The best ? I mean, maybe the best way the best way to enjoy this show is over on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Please subscribe. You can comment, and we're also over on the platform formerly known as Twitter. That's @ClippersPod. We'd love to chop it up with you. However you consume this, we appreciate it.
We appreciate it. And we got another giveaway real quick that Adam just sprung on us.
I didn't leave because of the shirt.
Have you mailed the other bobblehead out yet?
Did you get his address?
Yeah, I sent it in the group chat.
Oh, that's my bad then. I didn't see that.
I'll resend it. No worries. We got another bobblehead giveaway.
The tax return out, I'll tell you that much. Good God. Last second, I was one of the procrastinators.
I did mine in January. I need money. Adam, what bobblehead are we giving away?
Ta-da!
Stephen Ballmer.
Big
Big Steve. I think they gave him the Kung Fu thigh grip on this.
It's pretty great. He's in the celebratory pose.
Yeah.
It's classic.
What are the rules for the giveaway, Adam?
Ooh. I mean, I'd say we stick with the keywords. It's been successful.
Let's do it. Yeah.
3 keywords.
If you're listening this deep, you deserve it.
3 keywords.
Are Mavs fans eligible, by the way, or
no?
how do we vet that?
Good question. We'll figure it out. We'll look at their post history. Everything's online.
We'll check mark them.
Yeah. So we're gonna mail out the other one because I'll re-up on the address for that. Do we want to give away a keyword now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Give
all right,
away
Will.
now.
What is the first keyword to win this bobblehead? If you get all 3, comment on the YouTube video with all.
What's he gonna have without doo-doo?
Focus.
Ooh, the first keyword is focus. Also, the best vitamin water flavor. So if you, it's true. If you remember focus, and then you remember the 2 other ones that we're gonna drop one on Thursday, and then maybe we'll drop one during the live before the game on Sunday or something.
We'll see.
We'll figure.
You gotta watch all the episodes to see when it could end up in any of our future episodes.
Yeah, write them down and then type them into a comment on YouTube when you think you have all 3, and we will mail you a bobblehead. Thank you for hanging out. We're gonna be back on Thursday, and as always, let's go Clips.